For the weighted ring dip, we're going to be utilizing a leather dipping belt. This sucker is nice and heavy duty. I've had it for about 10 years. It also has a nice firm pad that just is super comfy on the low back and on the top of the hips. Get something that's going to hold up to the abuse, especially when you start loading the sucker up with 1, 2, 3, 45-pound plates. You're going to want to make sure it's going to hold up to the abuse. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my plate leaning up against a post. That way the inside of the plate is nice and high off the ground, so it's not as difficult for me to wrap it around, nor is it difficult for me to pick the weight up off the floor with the belt already attached. So I'm going to loop that through. Now, before we put the belt on, you're going to want to make sure that your anchor points are shoulder width apart. If they're too narrow or too wide out, it's going to be an issue. Make sure that these extra straps are moved up out of the way. I recommend having them at least above your shoulders and facing outward from where you're going to be grabbing them. Since I'll be grabbing from this direction, they'll make sure that they're out of my way. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to get inside that weight belt. We're going to slide it away from the post. I'm going to wedge it between my lower legs to control the plates. I'm going to make sure that that belt's going to clear my shorts. I'm going to start hiking it up. I'm going to let it rest right at the base of my low back and make sure this weight is centered between the legs so it's not canted off to one side. That tends to happen a little bit more when you have like one heavy plate and one light plate. Try to even it out a little bit before you get into the rings. Once it's there and you know it's not going to fall, go ahead and set yourself up, center between the rings. Place your hands at the southernmost portion of the ring. You want to make sure you're not out here so that when you get into position, they're not going to slide down. Wrap the thumb and fingers around, making sure the wrist is straight. We don't want to have all the fingers and thumb on the other side of it. We want to have the thumb opposing so that we can grab the bottom of that ring nice and tight. And we want to make sure that wrist is straight and it's not bent inward. From here, grip it nice and tight. We're first going to lock out the arms, lining up the wrist, elbow, and shoulder, getting into a stable position. From here, I'm going to bring my feet up off the ground, keep my head neutral. I'm going to take in a nice deep belly breath, lower myself under control until those arms are at 90 degrees. Then I'm going to come back up. We want to avoid having our head up or tucking our chin excessively. Once you're done, place the feet on the ground. Come out of the rings. I like to grab these little strap holes here where you got the end portion of the chain. I'm gonna bring the back portion, the padded portion of the dip belt off of my hips, lower it down to the ground, roll it up against that post so that it doesn't have a good chance of falling and smacking into my feet or my toes, and I'm gonna come out of the dip belt. This movement has a lot of instability with it, so it's going to require a lot of stability to counter that. Make sure that you are familiar with the ring dip itself, unweighted, before you start loading it up. That's how you do a weighted ring dip.